If you've seen what's happening in the streets of Johannesburg this week, you already know the streets are tense. Marches, shutdowns, police presence. This is being led by the March to March movement, and they are calling for stricter immigration enforcement. But to understand why this is happening, you have to understand what people believe is happening in their country. Hello and welcome to Catch Up TV. What started off as a protest is now turning into something much bigger. A movement in Gauteng is demanding the removal of undocumented immigrants, and now they've given the government a 7-day ultimatum. This conversation didn't just start today, it's been building up for years, driven by crime, frustration, and perception. The protests were organized across Gauteng, especially in Johannesburg, and the demands are clear: enforce immigration laws, deport undocumented migrants, prioritize jobs for South Africans. Supporters say this is about law, order, and survival, not hate, but critics say this is dangerously close to xenophobia. Now, this is exactly what's fueling the movement. A widely circulated narrative going back years is that undocumented immigrants are heavily involved in crime. An older but often referenced report highlighted that immigrants from countries like Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Nigeria were linked to various crimes including robbery, fraud, drug-related offenses. It even claimed that certain groups were associated with specific crime like drug syndicates and bank robberies. The report noted that foreign nationals were increasingly appearing in South African courts. Prison populations of foreign nationals were rising and costing the country thousands of taxpayers' money. And in another snapshot, nearly a third of suspects in the Johannesburg courts were foreign nationals. So for many South Africans, this isn't just an opinion, it feels like evidence, and they see it daily on the ground. Some articles challenge the narrative, and studies have found that South Africa's socio-economic problems are not caused by immigrants but by poor governance and corruption. They make up a small percentage of total convictions, and there's no clear statistical link between immigrants and overall crime rates. But here's the reality. Even if the data says that, public perception and what South Africans are experiencing says another thing. Back to what's happening now. Protests moved through Johannesburg. Shops shut down. Protests carried weapons like shamboks. Businesses, especially foreign-owned, closed out of fear. And this situation feels too familiar because South Africa has been here before. Moments where frustration turned into violence. So the latest update is the March to March movement handed over a memorandum to Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi and gave him 7 days to respond. If nothing changes, things might just escalate. Lesufi tried to address the crowd briefly, but was booed and he left. The government says they're acting on it currently, and they pointed to increased deportations, strong border control measures, plans for digital immigration tracking systems, but for many, that response just isn't enough. The situation is bigger than protest. It's about unemployment, inequality, pressure on public service, and identity. South Africa has the highest unemployment rate in the world, so when resources feel limited, people start looking for someone to blame. And historically, that blame has often fallen on immigrants. But it's a dangerous line, because once frustration turns into targeting people, it stops being policy and starts being conflict. Right now, everything comes down to one thing: the clock is ticking. 7 days, that's how long the government has to respond before the situation potentially escalates even further. So the real question is this a justified demand for accountability, or are we just watching the beginning of something much more dangerous? And I want to hear from you now. Do you think South Africans are justified in their frustration, or do you think the narrative around crime and immigration is oversimplified? Let's talk about it in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe, because if you stuck around this far, you surely are part of the family. Till next time, bye.